The Sixers have failed Embiid throughout his entire career. And Game 3, I thought, was the perfect example of that. A one-game showcase as to how they have failed him and how, yet again, this is going to be a Philly season that ends earlier than it should. Because the issues we saw Friday night are the same issues that have plagued Philly throughout the entirety of the Embiid era. No consistent role players around him. Poor coaching. Bad attention to detail. You wrap all that up in one package, that's the reason why right now the Sixers are down 2-1 in this series to the Celtics. That's why they're going to lose this series to the Celtics. And that's why in these 6 playoff appearances that Embiid has been in with the Sixers, they have all failed to reach the conference finals. The Sixers are wasting Embiid's prime. The Sixers are throwing Embiid's prime right down the drain. Right, earlier this week, and on Friday night, he was awarded the MVP. We found out Embiid, for the first time in his career, won the MVP. Before that, the last 2 years, he was a runner-up. So, if you deduce that, the last 3 seasons, Joel Embiid has either been the best or the second best player in the NBA. And what is that equated to? Embiid and the Sixers, what do they have to show for him being the best or second best player in the NBA the last 3 years? Nothing. In terms of playoff success, absolutely nothing. And if I'm Embiid, I would be furious at the organization. Because look around. What have they done to put help around him? What have they truly done to put Embiid and this team in a position to legitimately contend for a championship? Can you say James Harden counts? Because I don't. James Harden does not count as a piece that legitimately can be used to win a championship. He's abysmal in the playoffs. That's who he's been throughout his entire career. And is anyone really surprised, or any of you listening right now actually shocked by the fact that following this 45-point, I thought, best game of his career in the playoffs, making the biggest shot of his career to ultimately win the game back in Game 1 in Boston, that Harden has followed that career-high game, career-best game in Game number 1, followed that up with 2 duds. You should not be surprised. And if you are, shame on you because you have not been paying attention. The last 2 games we have seen James Harden, that is who this guy is in the playoffs. He stinks. He's someone you cannot rely on. He is not a 1A, a 2 on a championship winning team, because anytime you need to rely on him to make a big shot outside of Game 1, he fails. And there is a large, massive sample size in James Harden's career of playoff performances where he has come up short, where he has failed, and his team, whether it's the Rockets, the Nets, or the Sixers, desperately needed a big performance from him, and he has come up short. So it's no surprise that since dropping 45 points in Game number 1, he has combined the last 2 games scored 28. It's not a surprise that with a chance in Game 2 to put your foot on the throat of the Celtics and win that game and probably win the series, and then in Game 3, going back home with a chance to reclaim control of the series, James Harden in those 2 pivotal games has combined to go 5 of 28 from the field. 5 of 28. The guy cannot be relied on. That's not a surprise. That's not breaking news. But if I'm Embiid, it's not just the fact that they've swung and missed on James Harden as my running mate. It's also the fact that they have failed miserably with guys like Ben Simmons, who was a total failure, and kind of like Harden, shrunk massively in the playoffs and in the big moment. But if they're not failing on Ben Simmons, if they're not whiffing on thinking that James Harden was the answer, it was epically failing in getting a guy like Markelle Fultz, who with the number 2 overall pick a few years ago, they drafted a guy who forgot how to shoot the basketball. He forgot how to shoot. He doesn't know how to shoot. And that doomed his career in Philly from the start. So if you're Embiid, you yourself are doing everything you need to be doing to put the Sixers in a chance to win a championship. The guy just won the MVP. He's been a top 2 player in the league each of the last 3 years. But each of the last 3 years come playoff time, these Sixers are never a threat. They're never a threat to win the East or win the finals because there's no one else next to Embiid that scares anybody. And that flared up, I thought, perfectly in Game 3 as Embiid is receiving the award and he's emotional. It was a great scene. It was a great moment. But as soon as that's over, as soon as he's recognized for being the best individual player in the NBA this year, we all quickly recognized, oh yeah, he's the only player on the Sixers that legitimately has championship ability and can be relied upon to play well in the playoffs. No one else can. And the issue, too, for the Sixers, and if I'm Embiid, why I'm furious with the organization and why I think they have failed me, it's not just the lack of role players that have led to the demise of the Sixers. It's also the coaching. The coaching stinks. Doc Rivers is a bad coach. I know he's won a championship, but he is a really poor, really bad playoff coach. He fails to make adjustments. He's very slow in making changes. He doesn't have the team focused on the small details that truly make or break a series or a game. Late in the game, again, Game 3 was the perfect example of everything that's gone wrong with the Sixers in the Embiid era. Late in the game, inbounding, 5-second violation. Sixers couldn't even inbound the ball late in the game when they needed to get a bucket to keep themselves in it. 5-second violation. There's always small miscues along the way that hurt the Sixers in games. And that goes back to coaching, and that's, to me, a direct reflection on coaching. Doc Rivers has not been very good before him. Brett Brown's not been very good either. So if you're Embiid, you got to be looking around and telling yourself, what else do I have to do? I am doing everything I possibly can be doing to put this team in a chance to win a championship. I won the MVP. On a knee injury in Game 3, he dropped 30 points, 13 rebounds, 4 blocks. When you have that performance from your star, you don't need another heroic 45-point game from James Harden. You just need him to be okay. Average. Good. And he can't even get you to that level. That's a problem. And that's why, to me, Game 3 was so predictable for the Sixers and them losing. This is who they are. It's the same formula each and every year. Embiid plays great. He gets injured. He's limited. And no one else steps up consistently. No one else around him can help him out, pick up some slack, put the team on their shoulders for even just one game, and lead the Sixers deep into the playoffs. It's the same formula each and every year for Philly. And nothing is going to change this series. And I thought it was perfectly encapsulated in game number 3. I said to start the segment, timing is everything. And I thought the timing of game 3 was indicative right now of the entire failure around the Embiid era. They tanked to get stars. They got one and hit a home run in Embiid. But they have struck out on everybody else. And that is the reason. Failure around building Embiid. Bad coaching. Those are the reasons why right now the Sixers are in a 2-1 hole and why they will not yet again reach the conference finals in the East. And that's why it was perfectly fitting timing-wise that the night Embiid gets the MVP and gets recognition for being the best player in the league. Everyone else around him fails, and it leads to a Sixers disappointing loss in the playoffs yet again.